Have you ever wondered if one of your children, someone you've raised and given everything to, could be plotting your death? I never gave my parents that chance to wonder. The house was too quiet that morning. Andreas and I had just returned home. Something felt wrong. The security alarm was off. I knew why, of course, but my brother didn't. The front door was unlocked. I remember gripping the doorknob, my hand steady despite what I knew lay beyond. "Andreas, wait here," I said, handing him a kitchen knife. My little brother, only 15, stood there shaking. I had to maintain my composure. After all, I'd rehearsed this moment countless times in my head. You're probably wondering why you should watch this story. Well, let me tell you, by the end of it, you'll understand how a privileged young woman from one of São Paulo's wealthiest families orchestrated the unthinkable. You'll see how childhood entitlement can morph into something far more sinister, and how Brazil's justice system handled one of its most notorious cases. But most importantly, you'll learn why my parents had to.
What you're about to witness is the chilling account of Suzane von Richthofen, a woman who orchestrated the brutal murder of her own parents on October 31st, 2002. While we hear her story, remember that behind these events lie real victims, Manfred and Maricia von Richthofen, whose lives were tragically cut short by their own daughter's evil actions.
I was born on November 3rd, 1983, in São Paulo. You know, the rich part. Daddy was this super important German engineer, Manfred von Richthofen. Everyone made such a big deal about our family name, always asking if we were related to the famous Red Baron from World War I. Daddy loved that connection, even though it was pretty distant. Growing up, I had everything. Our house was this massive mansion in Brooklyn, Velho, the fancy neighborhood where all the important people lived. 6 bedrooms, a huge pool, security cameras everywhere. Mom was always particular about keeping everything perfect. I mean, she was this super successful psychiatrist, Dr. Maricia von Richthofen. Everything had to be just so. My little brother Andreas came along when I was about 3. We had this perfect little family dynamic going. Daddy with his engineering projects, Mom with her patients, and us kids getting everything we could ever want. And I mean everything. I was their golden child. Piano lessons, German school, the best of everything. When I graduated high school and got into law school at the prestigious Pontifical Catholic University of São Paulo, my parents couldn't have been prouder.
What Suzane describes as a privileged childhood was, according to later psychological evaluations, the breeding ground for her extreme sense of entitlement. The constant indulgence and lack of boundaries would later play a crucial role in her inability to accept her parents' authority.
Money was never an issue. Daddy gave me this cute little Volkswagen Gol for my 18th birthday. I mean, most of my friends got BMWs, but he said I needed to learn responsibility. Can you believe that? He had millions stashed away. Yeah, I knew about the Swiss accounts. But he was always going on about earning things yourself. My allowance was huge by normal standards, but in our circle, let's just say I was always asking for more. There were designer bags to buy, parties to attend, and appearances to maintain. That's what mattered in our world, keeping up with the right people, being seen at the right places. You know what's funny? With all that money, all that privilege, my parents still thought they could control every aspect of my life. There I was, a law student at 18, and they still treated me like their little puppet princess. Then I met Daniel Cravinhos. It was August 1999, at Ibirapuera Park. He was teaching aero modeling, and my brother Andreas was fascinated. At first, my parents approved. Daniel became like part of the family, teaching Andreas about model airplanes, taking him biking. They didn't mind when we started dating. They thought it was just a phase. But Daniel was different. He showed me a world beyond their control. For the first time, I felt free.
Court records show that Suzane's relationship with Daniel marked a dramatic shift in her behavior. Friends testified that she became increasingly isolated, focused solely on her boyfriend, who was known to law enforcement for drug use and had no steady employment.
Daniel changed everything. I was 16 when we first got together. God, my parents would have freaked if they knew their perfect daughter was sneaking off to the Disco Verde Hotel in the afternoons. But that was just the beginning. We started smoking weed, trying ecstasy. Everything felt so free, like I was finally living my own life, not the one my parents had planned out for me. Daniel showed me a whole different world, and I was hooked, not just on the drugs, on him. After New Year's 2000, we were inseparable. I mean, I even stopped going to graduation parties just to be with him. My parents were furious, but I didn't care. You should have seen us at law school. Daniel came with me everywhere. Class trips, visits to the João Mendes Jr. Forum, even the Legislative Assembly. My classmate Beatrice used to say we were obsessed with each other. Maybe we were, but isn't that what love is supposed to be? We were living in our own little bubble, and it was perfect. But then everything started falling apart. Late 2001, my parents found out about the drugs, about Daniel's influence on me. They said I was losing focus on my studies. Like that even mattered. I had to start lying, telling them I was staying at friends' houses to study when I was really with Daniel. That April night changed everything. Mom called my friend checking up on me. Of course, I wasn't there. I was with Daniel at our usual hotel. When I got home the next morning, God, the look on her face. I just told her the truth. Stupid, right?
This confrontation marked a critical turning point. The von Richthofens' attempt to protect their daughter would ultimately set in motion a chain of events leading to their deaths.
By 2002, everything changed. My parents couldn't accept that their perfect daughter was in love with someone they considered beneath us. They banned me from seeing Daniel. Can you imagine? I was 18, and they thought they could control who I loved. Daddy and I got into this huge fight. I hit him. First time I'd ever done that. He slapped me back. I stormed out, swearing I'd never return. But I did come back, took off the ring Daniel had given me, promised them it was over. They actually believed me. The whole time, Daniel and I were still together, just in secret. That July, while they were on vacation, Daniel moved in. It was perfect until they came back. I suggested they buy us an apartment. I mean, they had the money, but my father's response? Graduate, work, then do whatever you want with whoever you want. But I couldn't wait. I wouldn't wait. That's when I realized something had to change. They wouldn't let me live my life. Fine. Maybe they shouldn't live theirs either.
What followed was a calculated plan that would shock Brazil. Police records show that Suzane and the Cravinhos brothers spent months planning the murders, even testing different methods to ensure their success.
The next night, Halloween, funny enough, everything was set in motion. First step, get Andreas out of the house. My sweet, naive little brother. I told him we'd celebrate my upcoming birthday. Took him to this internet cafe around 10 p.m. He was so excited, thought he was part of some cool plan where he'd get to stay up late playing games while I went to a hotel with Daniel. I knew the alarm code. I knew where my mother kept her surgical gloves. I knew exactly how much money was in my father's briefcase. Everything was planned.
The level of premeditation was staggering. Investigators found that Suzane had methodically disabled security cameras days before the murders and had carefully staged the crime scene to look like a robbery gone wrong.
While Daniel and his brother Christian went upstairs, I waited downstairs. I didn't want to hear anything. I just sat there, hands over my ears, knowing there was no turning back. When it was done, we went to a motel, an alibi. Then we picked up Andreas and discovered what had happened.
The investigating officers were immediately suspicious. First, the brutality of the murders was stark. Manfred died instantly from the blows. Maricia, however, awoke and attempted to defend herself. Her broken fingers showed signs of her desperate fight for survival. Her last words were reportedly pleas for her children's safety. Second, Officer Alexandre Paulino Boto testified that Suzane's behavior at the crime scene was disturbingly calm. asking detailed questions about police procedures while showing no emotional reaction to her parents' deaths.
They arrested us on November 9th. 9 days. That's how long our perfect plan lasted. But you know what? I didn't care anymore.
The Brazilian justice system sentenced Suzane to 39 years and 6 months in prison. She served 16 years before being released on parole in January 2023. Psychological evaluations during her imprisonment revealed severe narcissistic personality disorder and extreme egocentrism, traits that likely contributed to her ability to orchestrate such a heinous crime against her own parents.
You want to know why I did it? Why my parents had to die? Because they stood in my way. Because they thought they knew what was best for me. Because I wanted their money, their house, their life insurance. But on my terms. Because I was entitled to it all.
The Richthofen case remains one of Brazil's most notorious crimes, highlighting the devastating consequences of unchecked entitlement and mental health issues. It raises crucial questions about parenting and privilege. While Suzane von Richthofen lives freely today, married with a child in Bragança Paulista, we must never forget the real victims of this tragedy. Manfred and Maricia von Richthofen were loving parents who wanted the best for their children. Their brutal murder serves as a chilling reminder that sometimes the greatest dangers lie not with strangers, but within our own homes. All our thoughts and prayers go to Andreas von Richthofen and the extended family members who continue to live with the aftermath of this senseless tragedy. May Manfred and Maricia rest in peace.